With the announcement finally here that after 7 months of no new content whatsoever, it is finally time to start looking into what is the future, which is the summer DLC. And obviously the expectations that you should probably have for them, considering the fact that on paper, it's probably going to be a smaller size DLC. What I'm personally would think at 27 years old I'd stop voice cracking. I personally think that the closest comparison we can have to the upcoming summer DLC is going to be the same as we have with the Los Santos Summer Update released in 2020. This DLC had just a few contact missions and the rest was just a couple of new vehicles and some quality of life stuff and obviously some more collectibles. And I think that's pretty much what we can expect here. From what we can tell from what Rockstar is telling us in the newswire, it's pretty simple. The DLC is predominantly going to be quality of life changes, so anything more than that I don't think you should really be expecting. I think you can really expect this DLC to still have some cool things in there, like some collectibles and the usual contact mission and all that stuff, but in terms of like anything on the scale that we have with the contract DLC, I kind of highly doubt it. I think they're reserving the bigger stuff for the December DLC, which is obviously upsetting considering the fact that means another 5 months or so with very little to no content. Having said that though, I do want to touch on some of the changes that they have mentioned within the upcoming patch, because there are some very interesting things happening. I personally think that the select heist finales that are getting a buff is most likely going to be the older heist. The reason for that is because even with a 25% increase, the amount of money that you could be making with it, especially when you're repeating it as a newer player, is quite good. You have to keep in mind that no matter how they are going to increase the payouts for these old heists, you're gonna have to always split it up in 4. So if they increase it with like $100,000 or $200,000, that's like $25,000 to $50,000 per person each, which is pretty decent, especially if you consider those older heists don't take that long. And well, I think predominantly should really be played as kind of an introductory thing to how most mechanics work within the game. Also considering the fact that most, if not all people, for some reason are still stuck in Prison Break in 2022. And when it comes to game modes, there's definitely some opportunities there too. I predominantly kind of decided to focus on the races and see what's possible there. Mainly because I had Test2 be so kind to send me over the actual code that they use in-game, and then I could bring that code to my new best friend Alex, who was able to make that into a program, which I then was able to use to have all the different payouts for every position within the game. Yes, this is how obsessed I am with getting all kinds of data. I might need some help. Having said this, because of this, I was able to very easily showcase to you guys what it would look like if there were to be a 25% increase to payouts in races. This would mean that for first place you will get an additional $10,000, for second place an additional $6,000, for third place an additional $4,000, and the list kind of goes on. Now on paper this might not seem explosive, but if you look, for example, if this were to be a 50% increase, this becomes even more interesting. I personally think that maybe a 50% increase is possible, but I kind of doubt it. I think 25% is a little bit more realistic. I think the main thing that Rockstar should probably be focusing on rather than the top 3 positions is maybe those positions that are kind of dipping below the 4th place. When you start seeing stuff going below 10k, it becomes a little less interesting to start doing races. I think if you're earning $3,000 to $5,000 per race, it doesn't become very interesting to keep playing those races, especially if you know that there's avenues in the game out there that are significantly more interesting. I think those folks that are in the lower positions should probably earn at least $10,000. Speaking of $10,000, that's something that you never really see when playing an adversary mode, unless it's double cash. So for that reason, I think the standard of adversary mode payouts should probably be increased 2 or at least 3 times, because honestly, the payouts in those adversary modes just need a massive kick up the butt. Even with 4 times money, it was still relatively difficult to justify and telling everyone like, hey, these adversary modes are really worth playing. Obviously, if there's something we have to keep in mind is that event weeks still have to be kind of feasible and intensify people to go and play the game again, because, you know, having this done permanently and then event weeks kind of becoming irrelevant is something they probably want to avoid as well. And obviously the big fish is going to be the nerf to the Oppressor Mk II. I think Rockstar has a couple of things that they can be doing to it. I think the predominant thing that they probably should be focusing on is the missiles themselves. I think a decrease in the missile damage as well as the tracking and maybe even the lock-on range as well will probably go a long way. I know this is pretty much the entire thing at that point, but you get what I'm trying to say. The tracking especially can be relatively ridiculous on the thing, having done some pre-patch testing to make sure to have comparison footage between that and the patch version, because of course this is the point where I tell you, subscribe to the channel. Testing video coming very soon whenever the patch has been launched, probably on July 19th. Stay tuned. The issue with the tracking on the missiles is that I could just drive straight towards a night shark, he could pass me, and it would literally do a 180 and still hit him. I think if they get rid of at least that, it will go a long way. Maybe even far enough so people are able to actively dodge the rockets rather than what it is right now. A decrease to damage to vehicles might also go a long way, but having said that, I think in most cases one rocket is still going to kill any sort of regular vehicle, so I'm not sure how much that would make any sense. Lock-on range, definitely something worth noting as well, considering how fast and nimble the Oppressor Mk II is, but I think the main issue with the Oppressor Mk II is still the mentality of people themselves. If you get rid of the Oppressor Mk II, the core issue of people using that thing for terrible things in GTA Online is still going to exist. People are assholes and they want to ruin your day. And they can still do that with something like a scramjet that goes into the air and then gets into an angle and then shoots a rocket at you. If there's someone good with an armored vehicle or with a jet, they will still kill you, and it will never change. Just making stuff a little bit less easy accessible with the Oppressor Mk II and making that particular pool of skilled players, giving it a little bit more of a harder time to get kills, will definitely go a long way. But it's going to be interesting to see how Rockstar is going to take the approach to nerfing it, considering their last attempt at nerfing it was, well, just leave it alone for 5 minutes. It probably had helped, but I think the core issue of the thing itself still existed. So we'll have to wait and see what Rockstar decides to do to it. I do also wonder what's going to happen with free roam whenever the Oppressor Mk II no longer becomes a thing, because Jet still exists, the Stromberg still exists, the Toreador still exists. You know, the list is very long. There's still a lot of vehicles that they can use and abuse. So I think this is just kind of like a band-aid fix to what is the bigger problem. But hey, maybe they'll look into other things in the near future as well after the Oppressor Mk II has been reeled in a little bit. Regardless, those are some of my thoughts. Of course, I'd love to know what you think in the comment section down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more, and of course make sure to stay tuned to all the DLC videos coming to you potentially next week. I don't know yet because Rockstar has not officially announced the DLC just yet. And if you really like what you see on the channel, become a member like Chloe and Robert. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you all later.